Welcome in, everyone. Ready for a deep dive that's a little, unexpected? We're talking customer service, but not the usual way. Think less corporate script, more human connection. All centered around one shopping mall. Bet you didn't see that coming.
Definitely not the usual setting that comes to mind. I'm intrigued. What's the story here?
So it all started with this book I stumbled upon about the Palatino Mall. And buried within it was Luisa's story. She's our customer service guru for this deep dive.
Okay, and what's so special about Luisa's take on this? Plenty of folks work in customer service.
True, but she's been immersed in it since she was, get this, 15, handling all sorts of personalities, from antsy kids to, well, sometimes even more challenging parents.
Oh, starting young, I can only imagine the patience that must take in. Teenage years are hard enough without navigating everyone else's too.
Right. She even managed parties at a kids club. Talk about a crash course in people skills. And you can tell those experiences really shaped how Luisa approaches customer interactions. She even mentions enjoying the challenge of connecting with, quote, not so easy to love customers, the ones most people would dread.
Now that's interesting. Turning a potential negative into a positive, that speaks volumes about her outlook.
Totally. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Luisa describes Palatino, this shopping mall, as way more than just a job. She calls it, quote, a bridge between my past, my present, and my future. Clearly, this place holds a special meaning for her, beyond just clocking in and out.
That's powerful. It makes you wonder, what is it about this mall that creates such deep loyalty and connection? There's got to be something remarkable happening there, something beyond just the usual buying and selling.
And from what I gathered, it seems connected to Luisa's larger book project. Now, I don't want to give too much away, but it sounds like Palatino's story is part of a bigger exploration of finding connection and meaning in, shall we say, unexpected places.
Okay, now you've really piqued my curiosity. But it makes sense, right? We often search for meaning in grand gestures when sometimes it's the everyday interactions, the seemingly mundane places that surprise us with profound connection.
Exactly. And get this, Luisa's totally comfortable with technology. She even talks about how much it's improved things in some ways. But then she makes this really insightful observation, even with all the automation in the world, human connection, real human connection, it's irreplaceable. It's like she sees the value in both,
It's that balance, isn't it? Recognizing the efficiency and progress that technology brings while also acknowledging that some things, like genuine human connection, can't be replicated by an algorithm. And it's interesting to hear that perspective from someone like Luisa, who, as you said, is clearly comfortable with tech.
And she phrases it so perfectly. She says, quote, in these stories, you mainly see people's hearts, their needs, their humanity. That has really struck me because it gets at the core of what seems to set Palatino apart. They're not just processing transactions, they're fostering real, genuine connections.
It's like they understand that at the end of the day, we're all just humans looking for connection. And to create that space, especially in a setting like a shopping mall, which can often feel impersonal and transactional, well, that's something special.
And this is where Amigos Palatino comes in, right?
Yeah.
From what I gathered, it's this group that really embodies Palatino's whole thing about building those authentic connections. Like they've created a community inside a community,
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. It makes you think about how businesses, even big ones, can do more than just, sell stuff. Creating that feeling of belonging, especially these days when, honestly, it's easy to feel kind of isolated. It's pretty significant.
It really is. And Luisa doesn't just talk about it generally. She shares these really powerful stories that show just how much of an impact this group has. Like, she talks about seeing people go through some really tough times, like really, really tough, some even thinking about, And they found support and comfort in this Amigos Palatino group. It's pretty amazing to think a shopping mall could become a place of refuge like that.
It really makes you question what you think a shopping mall is, usually you think about like crowds and buying things, not a place where people are comfortable being so vulnerable, where they can like actually grow as people.
Right. It's like Palatino's become this unexpected safe haven. Makes you wonder how they did it, how they created that environment.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What's the secret sauce?
Well, Luisa breaks it down into 5 main things that drive Amigos Palatino. She calls them pillars, which sounds kind of formal, but bear with me. So it's respect, empathy, enjoyment, appreciation, and positivity. Sounds pretty basic, right? But I think the power is in actually living those values, not just like writing them on a poster in the break room.
Totally. It's one thing to say, it's another to actually walk the walk. So how do they put these pillars into action? Take enjoyment. What does that look like in practice?
So Louisa mentions things like activities and events specifically meant to be fun and build those relationships. Think about it, a mall intentionally creating opportunities for people to have fun and connect. Not just shop, but actually enjoy each other's company. It's a cool contrast to how impersonal those spaces can feel.
It's like they've figured out this puzzle of community building, but in the most unexpected place. It's refreshing.
And speaking of community, Louisa connects these pillars back to a shared, how do you say it, paisa, identity.
Paisa. Now that's interesting. Tell me more about that.
So I did a little digging, and paisa usually refers to folks from a certain region in Colombia known for being really welcoming and hospitable, big on family. And it seems like Louise is saying those values, that whole vibe, it's woven into how they do customer service at Palatino.
That adds such a fascinating layer, doesn't it? It's not just a set of rules they follow. It comes from a deeper, more personal place. And that probably makes it feel more authentic, more meaningful for everyone.
Exactly. It's like their heritage is part of every interaction, adding this warmth and sincerity you don't often see in the average customer service situation. It's more than a transaction. It's about extending that sense of family, of belonging. It's like their whole approach, it really flips the script on how we usually think about customer service.
Absolutely. It goes way beyond just the customer is always right or whatever. This is about recognizing that we all crave connection and creating a space where that can actually happen. It's pretty powerful stuff.
Definitely. It really makes you think, like, how many other places we might just walk by every day, how many of them could be transformed like Palatino if we just took that extra step, that extra moment to really see each other?
It's a good reminder that sometimes the most meaningful experiences, they're not found in some fancy resort or on some big adventure. They're right there in the everyday. It's about being open to those connections, to recognizing the humanity in every interaction.
So well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave you with a little something to ponder. Think about your own life, those unexpected places where you found a sense of community, of belonging. Maybe it's a park bench where you always see the same friendly faces. Maybe it's that little bookstore with the cozy armchairs, or even just a group chat that always brightens your day. Wherever it is, hold on to that feeling and let it inspire you to create more of those human-centered experiences, both in your own world and maybe, just maybe, inspire those around you to do the same.
Beautifully said. We could all use a little more of that Palatino magic in our lives.
Couldn't agree more. A huge thank you to all of you for joining us for this heartwarming exploration. Until next time, take care and keep seeking out those genuine connections. You never know where you might find them.